but don't get me wrong. Sure, we're having fun.
Hello, welcome to the Daisie Dates Podcast, where we talk all things love, dating and heartbreak. I'm Daisy.
And I'm Sean.
And today's episode is a very special one. We are joined by Jess Dante in the studio. Fabulous name. Founder of Love in London, a digital brand that helps London tourists basically visit as if they live there to avoid all of the overhyped and overdone stuff. So Jess talks all things travel and entrepreneurship, but is also really open about her dating journey online as well. So a massive welcome.
Woo!
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So exciting.
And you've travelled from London as well, which we love.
It's kind of a big deal for me to leave London, but I couldn't say no to this opportunity. So
it always is for a Londoner. It's like that you don't leave. Everyone has to come to you.
yeah.
Really, in Birmingham, we're trying to leave at any possible opportunity.
The opposite. So Jess and I actually met through TikTok, didn't we?
Yeah.
Kind of through following each other, which is so nice that social media kind of is like that now. I mean, maybe one day we'll meet a partner that way.
Yeah.
One day.
It's lovely though, isn't it? Because I remember going on TikTok at the end of 2021 and my algorithm was starting to show me more dating content. And I had not had a great time with dating in London. It was the first, I think, like 7 months that I had been out of any like big relationship. And I was like, God, I just feel like this is not fun. And I was finding videos like yours, Daisy, and all these other ones. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone. Like there's a lot of people going through exactly the same thing that I am. A lot of women who are dealing with the same stuff. And that was why I was inspired to start making my own content, which I don't really do as much anymore, but it was really fun. And it honestly brings everybody together. It's really nice, I think.
Yeah, it does. It really brings everyone together. As long as your like content online is relatable, then it really does draw in a really nice audience, doesn't it? So you've got a little this or that game for people to get to know you a little bit better if they don't know Jess behind Love in London. So in terms of dating, and some of these are quite hard because I'm sure you want to do all of them, but you've got to pick one. Okay. All right. So beach or mountains?
Beach always.
Oh, quick. Hiking or a meal out?
A meal out.
Love it. When going abroad, Bumble or Hinge?
Hinge, definitely.
Oh, you're straight on it, aren't you? Summer fling or a cozy one at Christmas time?
Oh gosh, summer fling.
Yes, 100%.
It's coming, girls. It's coming. Sun and sea or an adventurous city break?
Oh, that's hard because I really like both of them, but because we've had such bad weather here recently, sun and sea.
Love it. And wine or beer?
Wine.
And because you're American, tacos or burritos?
Tacos.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, tacos.
We got to know you a little bit better. So we're going to go back to the beginning a little bit, where travelling all started for you. Was it always quite a big part of your life? Did you grow up travelling?
No, actually, I didn't. My family and I did some small trips, but we didn't really do that much. I think by the time I was 15, I'd been on a plane maybe a handful of times, but nothing crazy. And then I kind of caught the bug a little bit when I would start to travel with my dance team. And then my grandmother, she was actually born in the south of Italy. So yeah, it had always been her dream to take the family, to pay for all of us and take the family and do this big trip around Italy because most of us had never been. So when I was just graduating high school, so I was 17, we did this 11-day trip all around the country. And it was then that I was like, oh, okay, right, cool. I like this. And my whole family says I get my travel bug from my grandmother because she retired and she just lived the dream. She had been divorced for a while at that point and she just did whatever she wanted, which I still like admire to this day. So yeah, I definitely caught the bug from her. And ever since then, I just basically have loved going wherever I could and living in other places. And that's how I ended up in London, kind of.
Yeah, love it.
I love Italy.
Do you?
Yeah, well, I went for the first time in November and I went to Lake Como and Milan and literally I was just like, oh, I love Italy. It's like one of my favourite places. I might book a solo trip in a couple of months to maybe Rome.
Yeah, nice. I did one of the coasts along Italy, you know, like Sorrento and all of that, travelled the coast with a really good friend. It was probably something that you should have done with a partner, but you've got to do these things, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I went to Rome last year with a girlfriend, which was really fun. I go back to Florence a lot because I lived there after I graduated university, and I go on my own there, and it's actually such a good city to go by yourself and just do whatever you want. So I definitely recommend solo and girlfriend travel in Italy. It's like the best.
Absolutely. Now, traveling this much across the globe, you've obviously got juicy stories and we want them.
Of course.
Is there something that really sticks out when you think about like dating abroad?
Well, so it's quite interesting. I think there are cultural things that can be quite different when you meet. You know, I only date men, so I'm meeting men in different cities around the world, both when I was younger and now when I'm in my new like single time in the last couple of years. And it's funny though, because some things can be quite different, but a lot of stuff is exactly the same. So I hop on Hinge basically anytime I'm going somewhere by myself. And I'm like, even if the prompts have been answered in a different language, I can tell that it's like, this one definitely says pineapple on pizza in French. And this one is like, it's just the same stuff as we see here.
I see. Nothing changes.
Nothing's different.
We'd go to France and it'd just be a French boy holding a fish and Daisie like, for God's sake.
Exactly. That is exactly what it is though.
Same shit, different day.
Exactly.
Just with a sexier accent maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. So it can be different. There can be cultural differences, but also it's just all the same shit. So
Now, you actually did meet someone though when you were dating that you went on to marry.
yeah.
So where were you in England when you met that person?
No. So in 2012, so this is after I graduated university, I moved to Florence and I spent a year there. And I kind of just was running around. I was kind of working, but not really working, and just having a great time, living the dream. And at the end of my time there, I kind of got to this point where I was like, you know what? I've had enough time of men, and I just think I need to focus on myself for a bit. I was thinking about moving back to the US and what I wanted to do. And at the end of that time, I actually had a friend from high school who was living in Prague, and we had reconnected on Facebook. So again, this was a long time ago. And long story short, he invited me up to Prague one weekend because there was a Swedish House Mafia concert that was going on because it was their last tour that they were doing. And I was like, yeah, cool, perfect. Booked the flight. And he had a couple of friends from London, he said, that were coming. And long story short, that was my now ex-husband and my ex-sister-in-law. So that's how we met, was this weekend in Prague, which was the most insane fun weekend.
Prague is so fun, isn't it?
Oh, so fun. I actually haven't been back since then, which is crazy.
Been.
It's really fun for everything, for the culture, for the party, everything.
Yeah, it's such a cool city. So that's how we met. And then we had this whirlwind romance where I was moving back to New York, and he came to New York a couple of times. And then we were like, okay, well, let's like try to make this work. And I tried to. So I'm giving you the very short version of this because it could go on honestly for a long time. But a few months after we had met, I started working on getting my Italian citizenship so I could move to here. Of course, obviously this is pre-Brexit. Yeah. And while that was happening, I flew over here because Americans are allowed to be in the UK for 6 months on a tourist visa. So I was like, okay, let me come on the tourist visa. Obviously, I can't work or anything, but that's fine. And then towards the end of that is when I should have my passport ready to go, and then I can come back and be fine, be Italian. But I...
Oh, that made us laugh. Be Italian.
Be Italian. So I take the flight over, get into Heathrow. This was before the e-gates were a thing. And I get up to this immigration officer, and she was like, okay, she starts asking me questions. And what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm coming to meet my boyfriend, and I'm staying for a few months and leaving when I need to leave, and blah, blah, blah. I knew all these questions were going to come. But she like straight away was like, go sit over there.
Oh no.
And I was like, okay, is everything okay? And she was like, just go sit down. So I go sit in this little pen.
They can be so scary, can't they?
So scary.
The authority is...
Yeah.
Sounds horrific.
Yeah. So I eventually was brought into this room. It was like a holding room, which they actually show it on Border Control, that show. I watched it once and I was like, I was literally in that room. And I remember the toilet doors don't go all the way to the bottom. So like everyone can hear you peeing. It's really weird. They took all my stuff away. Couldn't have anything on me. I had to buy phone cards to call on a payphone to tell my ex, like he had no idea what was happening. My parents didn't know what was happening. Everyone was like, why haven't I heard from you? And I was like, I'm being detained and questioned. So in and out for 9 hours, I was questioned by Border Control. And ultimately, they decided I was not going to be allowed to go into the United Kingdom and I would be banned from coming back. So, yeah. So obviously, I was devastated. And my ex got someone to bring up his passport, and he bought a ticket on the flight that they were putting me on. I got escorted through Heathrow with 3 security guards.
No. Oh, yeah. How old are you at this point?
23.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I have to sit in this special area for the flight away from everyone else. And then I was escorted onto the plane before everyone else, and my passport was given to the pilot, so I couldn't get it back until we got back to New York.
This is crazy.
We're just jaw-dropping all over the place here.
Yeah.
I wonder if this would be allowed to happen now as well.
There's like no empathy for the poor 23-year-old girl from America.
Yeah. It was like, I won't go into the details of why that happened, and it was fair enough, but it also was crazy. So yeah, so my ex and I fly to New York and just try to figure out what we're gonna do. And my ex-father-in-law just called a bunch of immigration lawyers and was like, basically the only option they have to override that ban from her coming here is for them to get married. So we were like, okay, that's what we're gonna do then. Yeah.
Oh.
So a month later, we got married in New York City. Very small wedding on a Wednesday, and I had to wait for my visa to be approved. So that took about a month and a half, and then I moved over here. So yeah, we got married 6 months after we met each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question that might be different now in hindsight, but at the time, did it feel different? I understand under the circumstances, which I didn't know before talking right now, that obviously it was for certain reasons. But did you know that you wanted to marry him? I'm asking if there's a feeling that you get.
For me, it was. I think the difference was that maybe if you're in the same country, it might feel different. But I remember thinking, like, for both of us, it was very incredibly painful for us to be so far away. And when we did get to meet up, it was just, we had such a great time and it just felt very full. And then as soon as I had to drop him off at the airport, it was heartbreaking. I don't know. I don't expect that to ever happen again. I think that was just such weird circumstances, and it's probably not realistic for other people to be looking for something like that. I don't know. It was just, and we were so young. So I think things are so different now. 10 years on, I would never expect that kind of feeling for another partner that I'd meet. But
I don't know, because I think it's meeting someone abroad. I really do. It kind of, you know how people go in Love Island and they say it feels like 1 day a week? I think that's what it feels like abroad.
Yeah.
I met somebody in Greece and it felt like I'd been with him for a year and it'd been like 3 weeks.
It's the magic, I think.
Yeah, and he was
Yes.
from London and I'm from Birmingham, and obviously it wasn't as long distance as yours, but we were like, yeah, this is so going to work. Like, no, it's not. You don't even, like, you were just in a whirlwind. So I think it could happen again,
Yeah.
but only really if it's in a circumstance where it's like accelerated a thing.
Yeah.
And how long were you married for?
We were married. We separated when we were at the 5.5 year mark, I believe. So, and then when we officially divorced, I think it was about 6 years we had been together. So
it still was a pretty solid relationship, obviously, wasn't it?
It was. And we definitely, we married. We thought we would eventually marry, but we just did it very early because we had to. So it wasn't like, oh, we're just doing this so Jess can get over here and then like we're gonna do our own thing. We definitely felt that we were gonna be together forever, but of course things change. But so it was a long marriage for people who got married in their 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. And you moved countries for this. So what were kind of expectations at the time from like family members? Were there whispers of Jess, no, you're too young?
Interestingly, my family are very like rational, but they were 100% behind this. There was like basically no questions. They had met my ex and they thought he was great. And they were just like, we'll support you and whatever that you want to do and what you guys need to do. And I think they were very behind the love story as well. And I think everyone was really behind the love story and just thinking, the people who had been involved in it were like, this is just amazing. And so no one said anything to my face about not doing that, which is so funny because if I heard a similar story now and a friend was going to be doing something, I'd be like, what? Or sometimes people tell me stories of like, we got engaged after a year and I'm like, that's so soon. I'm like, oh wait, I really cannot judge anyone.
Yeah, I like to think that there's no timelines to anything. So I think that's a nice way to look at it. And also it sounds like you don't look back at regret, which is the best thing, to look back at a relationship that has ended and not need to look at it with regret. I think that's really lovely. Going through divorce that young though, so that's before you're 30.
Yeah, so
wow.
29, I turned 30 when we were separated.
Wow, okay. How did you, at that time, that young, have the tools to deal with a divorce, if there are any? Did travelling get you through it?
So I don't know if I had, what tools did I have? It was really, honestly, it was a very, very difficult year. And so I had the support of obviously my family, who were over in the US. And then I had a group of friends and a few people especially that were like doing as much as they could to support me. But sometimes, like, especially in the beginning of something like that, there's just not much that people can do. So they were trying. And I was in the beginning, I was going to therapy like twice a week at that point. I already had an existing therapist. And so I was just I was going to her a lot, and then kind of went to like one a week and then every other week. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was tough. I was really thankful for the friends that were in London that could help me and that were trying to just like invite me to things that they were doing, or just trying to keep me entertained, and would come with me to, I moved out of my flat that my ex and I had together, and I had to move into a house share with strangers. And that was so, like, in the beginning, that was just so hard because I'd never done that before. And I'd lived with my partner for 6 years in my dream flat. So I had friends that like came with me to the viewings and helped me move and, came to check on me. And I'm so grateful to those people, because if I didn't have that, especially not having my family here, I don't know how I would have gotten through it, really.
Gosh, yeah, because they're not even around. Just going back on the house share, did you love it in the end? Because my best times are living within house shares. I've lived in London, Leeds and Manchester, so it's the best.
No,
not for you. Oh.
It was a transition. The first one was with two guys, and they were really nice, and one of them wasn't around very much, and he was the landlord, so that kind of was nice. And then one of them had a dog, and him and I actually got on quite well. But I was just really like missed having my own space and having my standards of cleanliness. That was really a struggle for me. So I moved out of that one after 6 months. And then one of my best friends, her and I paired up, and then we moved into a house with two other women who we had met through like mutual friends, which was also quite interesting. And also we did that just before COVID. So like the whole lockdown stuff, everyone was going through very different situations with that. So it was a lot of like personalities happening. And I ended up not even actually living in the house. I was staying with the guy I was dating at the time outside of London. And then that was the last house share that I did. And I did have some fun with it. And I think it was good that I wasn't living on my own during all these like really tough times. But I live on my own now, and I don't think I could go back.
I've done a house share before and I hated every second of it.
Yeah.
And I left early.
Gosh, I've met some of my best friends through living with them, and they were strangers to begin with.
No, it wasn't for me. But
Wow.
In your relationship, because you said your friends helped you and obviously keeping busy, but did you have a lot of friends that were mutual between both of you?
Yeah, I did. So that was a really difficult thing because obviously I moved to a foreign country, and my first group of people to want to become friends with was my ex's friends. And I did become very, very close with the majority of them, and a couple of them became like some of my closest friends. And so for the first like few months of the separation, everything was fine. And everyone was like still trying to be as supportive as possible. And then at one point, basically without going, I don't really want to go too much into the detail of what happened, but they just all cut me off. So it was like, that was really difficult for me at the time because it felt very unfair. It was from something that he had told them, and no one, like these people had been my closest friends, and no one even bothered to reach out and be like, what's your side of it or anything like that.
And you're in this country alone. At least it's the same language, so that helps. But yes. I mean, when you've got no one around you and you're having to reach out and potentially make new friends now, that's really hard.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen before, and it's almost like the goalpost moves when you're healing. It's like, right, in 6 months I'll be okay, and then something happens because you've got the same group of friends, and ultimately they can't keep being close with both of you. It's never going to work. And it's like the goalpost has moved to like, okay, I'm going through this now, and that makes it hard. But again, you've come over from America, so
yeah,
that's the easiest way to make friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was.
Was there a moment where you were like, I'm going back to America?
Yeah.
I thought about it. Like, obviously, as I was going through this whole process, I kind of was trying to figure out what are my next moves. And I didn't really want to go back because I'd lived most of my adult life in London. And I had that group of friends who eventually I didn't speak to anymore. But I also did have a really amazing group that were separate from my ex, who I had become really close with during that whole process. So I kind of thought about it, but then eventually, and also my business is so tied up in London. So I would really be starting over yet again.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really have any interest in doing that. And I was lucky that the visa I was on at the time, I was allowed to stay, even though we got divorced. So, it was, I got very lucky. And I think, losing that group was very painful for me because that happened just before lockdown started as well. So then I was living with my then boyfriend, but it was just so much time so much time to think, right? I think a lot of us we were dealing with that. So I was trying to process all this, and then also dealing with my business completely basically vanishing because no one was traveling to London. And it was just way too much time to think. But then once I processed all of it, I actually realized that it was for the best. And I came out on the other side. I have friends that I have much better like connections with, and that I have a lot more in common with, and that live nearby and have similar aspirations that I do, and like that really like pump me up instead of bringing me down and things like that. So it's actually was kind of a blessing that happened, because I wouldn't be in the position I am and have such amazing friends around me now.
But I love your story for that, and how you can look back and be like, everything does happen for a reason. And what I love about you, Jess, is that you've made London yours now. Mm-hmm. So it isn't anyone else's. It's like, you can put that behind you. Hopefully that's a passing that happened. It was great whilst it lasted. It's done and dusted now, but London is now yours with your amazing business and with your now like can-do attitude. I think that's great about the story.
It's easy for people to be like, obviously you're going to move back to America, but it's like home isn't where you were born. Home is where your friends are. Home is where you feel like you're at home. And for some people, it isn't where they're born. And so it's easy to be like, yeah, just move back. Look, no, obviously not. I've made my own life here. So
home can be where you make it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you stayed.
Yeah.
Yes, me too. I am too.
What was your biggest learning, or a few learnings probably, that come from a divorce?
So I think, there's a lot. But for me, I think I always thought I was quite independent when I was in that marriage, but actually, and it's not a shame to people who really tie themselves into their marriage and with their partner. But now I know in a partnership, I don't want to have things like quite as entangled. I make my own money. Like, I have my own money. I live on my own. I do my own thing. I run my own business. I don't really need to have a partner where we're like combining everything. I also want to always make sure I have you guys ever heard of a FUC YOU fund?
Oh, I love it. Is this where you're like, I want to go to Australia, fuck you, I'm going. But maybe not as expensive as Australia.
Is it like a fun rainy day one?
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
Like rainy day,
so
but fun.
I think there's a few versions of it. But I think I've heard a lot of women talk about when you are in a partnership and when you get married, that you have some kind of savings pot that's just only you have access to. Yeah.
We'll have to tell our future boyfriends about this.
Yeah. Well, and
To fund the divorce party.
yeah. But also I think people, ultimately we had lawyers that we had to get, and I didn't realize like that was going to be a thing. So I didn't really have the money to pay for a lawyer. So we had to like come to this agreement, and but also that got very like dicey. So I would say that women need to have, both partners should have it. Like, have your own savings so that if you need to hire somebody, and divorce lawyers are very expensive, but have the money where if you need to get out of a situation, even if it's not divorce, even if you're living with somebody, but if you need to get out, then you have that money and you have that cushion and you can do that. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in something that, and I know not everyone has the means to have this pot aside, but having that cushion means you can make decisions for yourself, and you don't have to worry about, well, I can't leave this because what am I going to do? I don't have the money, and I can't do this on my own.
Gosh, I think that's actually such wise, sound advice.
What's our tip?
Yeah, you never want to go into anything thinking this could end, but actually in this day and age, that's really wise. And even like you said, even if you're living with someone, maybe might be abusive, it's a means that can get you away if ever you need to. Obviously, you were so young, and it's only been a few more years, but do you think that you would have coped differently now because of age, but also I think there's just more online, like more advice that you can get and more people available, like more therapists and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So I actually don't think I mentioned the reason why my ex and I split up. So it was, the reason was that we couldn't agree on having children. So yeah.
Gosh, I'm getting goosebumps all over the shop.
I'm dropping all the yeah.
I guess at 23, that's not something you think to discuss, and then suddenly you're 28 and you're needing to discuss it.
No, so, and we discussed it in the way that 23-year-olds going through trying to get someone to even just live in the same country as you discussed it. And over time we mentioned it and kind of talked about it, and it was always kind of, we think we probably will. This is how I remember, at least. I don't know if this is how he remembers it, but we will. We had discussions about would we raise them in London, and I was like yes, and he was like no, and I was like oh okay, but we never had like really concrete discussions. And so basically we had a few months where I was like, I actually feel like I really don't want to have them, and he was like, oh, I feel like I maybe do, but let me do some exploring. And ultimately he said that he didn't want to give that up. So that's why we split up. And so I was dealing with like the divorce thing, which I couldn't really find that much information online about anyone our age going through divorce for support. But I also was dealing with the child-free thing. So, and at no point in time, even through this entire painful process, did I ever waver on that decision for me. And I feel that stronger than ever that I don't want to have children. Yeah. But I also kind of was feeling like, because most of my friend group did want to have that. I didn't really have that many friends that felt similarly that I could talk to about it. So even back then, there wasn't that much content about women who are choosing to be child-free. But now, these days, there's a lot more. And there's a lot more resources. There's TikTok accounts with couples that are child-free, and they talk about like sticking together in a group, because obviously, especially for women, if you don't want to have children, it's people get very heated about that sometimes, which is very interesting.
And also assume that I just also, even though I don't know if I want to have children, so I don't know why I thought this, but I assume that you wanted to have kids and he didn't.
And I'm exactly the same. That's what I
even
thought.
Though and I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever have them, so I don't know why I thought that when I was
It's just an assumption.
But it's just isn't it? Yeah, that you made that decision. Like, go girl.
Oh, no, it's I think pretty common to be like that, and just what we've grown up with, I think, too. And so it's really nice that there's podcasts that pop up that's like about child-free life, and again, TikTok accounts for people who are going through divorce, and there's just so much more support out there. And it's also why I like to I don't mind coming on to a podcast and talking about going through divorce and like being child-free and stuff, because it's just, if it can help like a couple of people feel like more comfortable in their decision, or just a little bit like less alien, and I think that's amazing. I love to be able to do that.
How long did it take till you were able to fully, healthily start dating again?
So I started dating somebody 8 months into our separation. So and I was with that guy for about a year and a half, and the majority of that was COVID. But then when him and I broke up, it was about a little more than 2 years ago. That was really like my first official time that I've ever been truly single, because I've always been a relationship person, even before I got married at 23. So I kind of started trying to date soon after him and I broke up. And I don't know if I would say that was healthily dating, because I basically was kind of learning how to date as people do in their early 20s. So there was a lot of stuff, and especially with stuff with the apps. And then also I was dating men generally in their early 30s, which can be good, but also that's a whole different challenge. And so it's been very interesting. I would say that only at the beginning of 2022 is when I was like, you know what, I feel more confident in what I'm looking for in somebody, and also more confident in being single. So I can just kind of brush people to the side if it's not working. So
do you find it hard to date as like an entrepreneurial woman as well? And obviously your business is online, so that can be intimidating. I know that for a lot of men as well, for some men.
Yeah, I do. I find dating hard in general, because the second that they know my last name, they can find so much information about me, which I put it out there at the end of the day. But some people can be very weird about that. And then some are like, that's really cool. So it kind of depends. And I don't really love going on the apps. Like I never put my last name. I don't really put what I do on it, because I've had people who are like, oh, I just found your TikTok. You just like slated every guy in London. And I'm like, sorry, you think we're going to go out now? This is, and I don't want people to have like that. I don't Google men before I go on dates with them. I don't know. I know a lot of people do. I get why.
I've never thought to do it.
No,
So why do they sit there?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to give you guys a chance. I'm gonna get the ick the second that I find something about you, probably. So, that is difficult. Because also I'm not on the apps. I just dramatically re-deleted it about 3 days ago.
Me too. 3 days ago, I was like, I can't. I'm taking my lashes off. I'm taking my hair extensions out. I'm deleting the apps. I'm going rural.
It was the full moon. It was the full moon, girls. Yeah.
And when's your birthday?
It's in August.
Oh, I thought we were going to be both Aquarius.
Oh no, I'm a Leo. I'm a hardcore Leo. I did it like 2 hours after I got back from Paris, and the friend that I went to Paris with, bless her, I had been like, I need some new Hinge pictures. She did all these amazing shoots, took all these amazing pictures, and then I just deleted it like 2 hours after we got back, and I was like, sorry. She's like,
Such a love-hate relationship, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like you date differently now? Do you make different choices? Generally.
Yeah. So I don't actually go on that many dates anymore, because of work, and I'm trying to stay off the apps, because I don't find that they are helpful
to anything.
Physically,
mentally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's not good. I do use them when I travel, but we can talk about that later. But I also, because I know what I want, I know I don't want to have children. I know I want to stay in London. I know what I'm looking for in a partner. I know what kind of lifestyle I want to have in the future. It just narrows the pool down, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I would rather that than not, I guess. But it just means that there are very few people that I end up going on a date with.
Yeah, having children is a real deal breaker on each side.
Yeah.
And I've always found it hard, because I'd be very happy to never have them. But I'm not opposed to them enough that if I met somebody and I fell in love and it was a big thing for them, that I wouldn't consider it. But how do you approach that in dating world, to be like, if I don't have that, because that puts boys off. If you say I'm not, they want women to be mothers, and for women to be like, I don't care if I have a child or not, they're like, ugh. And I find that really hard. And
it's definitely a new attitude, as you've mentioned. This wasn't happening years ago, so that's why people are still learning, to approach that. Because I've even had a moment where I've seen how hard it is, through my sister, how it has affected relationships as well, having kids that are stressful and hard. And you think everyday relationships are hard, but try having a kid that's keeping you up all night and then you're just hating on each other. Do you know what I mean? But I think I know deep down I really do want them. But there was a moment, and that's hard, isn't it, to navigate?
Yeah, Daisy was like, I'd just take off, because I said, you're still deciding about kids or don't want kids or something? And Daisy was like, take that off. Just don't put anything for now. I was like...
On her apps, yeah. I was like, just if you still decide, just take it off if you're not sure, because it's better than like putting a waffly decision. Yeah. It's like this new short-term, long-term thing. Short-term, but long-term's okay. What?
So you either look... I understand people looking for something casual. I don't understand people looking for a short-term relationship.
Long-term's okay. Yeah. I don't get that.
And the fact that there's then there's the reverse of that. I'm like, they're the same thing.
Long-term, but short-term's okay.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go into a relationship knowing it's going to end at some point? What is the point? What is the point?
I just don't. It frustrates the hell out of me. But I appreciate when people do put either like something casual,
Yes.
or life partner or long-term relationship, because they're like, okay, cool, you can be decisive on this. But then also figuring out my dating goals, I'm like,
you've got two options. You either want long-term or you want something casual.
And they're like 34 and I'm like, come on, think quick.
Exactly. Like, get your shit together, honestly. Oh my God.
And the pool just gets smaller and smaller.
At 28, I never thought I'd be saying to my mum, like, I'm left on the shelf, mum.
Yeah, well, back in the day, my friend's mum got her marriage certificate out and she got married at 26. That might be wrong, but something like that. And it said that she was a spinster before that. So she was a spinster at 26. Well, I'm on the shelf then and I at 30.
Oh my God, yeah.
No,
same.
No, just waiting for someone fabulous. And you know what? We kind of spoke about it off the podcast a little bit, myself and Jess, and we talk about it all the time, Sean, that it is getting generally harder for men to kind of reach where women are heading, because women are changing. We do own businesses now. We are earning more now. And we need everyone to catch up with us. We need, we need a man to be okay with us earning more than them, / being entrepreneurial if they're not. That's okay. We're allowed to have that now, but we're waiting for everyone to kind of catch up.
Yeah, I would agree. And I personally am very attracted to somebody who is either entrepreneurial or ambitious with their job or passionate about something. And so it's hard to, again, that like narrows the pool down and just a puddle at this point, really. Even living in London, I'm like, where is everyone?
But just one raindrop, and we've all got to try and find it.
Yeah. You would think that most people generally in London, if they've moved there for work, so they're ambitious, but it's still so hard because I'm in a smaller town now, and I often think maybe if I moved back to London it would be easier, but it sounds like it wouldn't be any easier.
No, I still meet men who are ambitious and doing well at work and doing well with whatever they're doing in life. But I think also I really like somebody who puts effort in. Low bar, but
literally it's here.
Yeah, it's down. Like in hell.
It's so low. Floor level.
Yeah. So so even finding that can be so, like, especially on the apps, every time I go on a little bit, it just kind of reminds me that I don't like to do pen pal. Within the first few hours, like, say, when are you free? I'm going to take you on a date. And I want to be taken on a date, and I want it, like, them to plan it. I want them to make the reservation. And I struggle to find, I haven't come across that many guys that are willing to do it in London.
I'm with you there, yeah.
I think it's because there's a misconception that modern women, business owner women who are busy, don't suddenly like any traditional gender values that we've grew up with. We're not saying we don't want men to be gentlemen and be taken out and wined and dined just because we have a business. It's like we've been put in a box that we're modern women, we don't need no men, we're still like traditional gender roles. we just got businesses and are busy.
I think that's where it's all misconstrued and muddled and entangled, and people aren't getting it, because someone commented on my TikTok, like, come on, I TikToked about I just need a guy to have more oomph, ask me on the next date, sort it, plan it. And a person, but I thought you were more independent than that. Or, I TikToked about a girl who had a guy like sit on a train with her and wait till it literally took off. And then he got off and waved her at the platform, and he said, like, isn't that being treated like a child? Do you want that? You're more independent. I was like, I'm independent, but that's why it's an extra treat when someone treats you like that. I was in awe at how this guy was treating a girl, and I was like, I shouldn't be in awe. That should just be normal.
Yeah. Well, also, I have friends who do stuff like that. So if a man is not going to do that for me, then what is the point of this? It's very interesting. I don't know if you want to start talking about like the dating abroad yet, but
yes, let's get the juice.
Yeah, right. So I started traveling on my own a bit more last year, and I was like, you know what? I don't know anyone, or I need like stuff. I need a few nights blocked out. So let me just hop on Hinge and like move the pin around and see what happens.
Wow.
And so I've gone on dates in almost, I think, every city that I've gone to on my own over the last like 6 or 8 months. And I've had like kind of a mixed bag, but mostly good experiences. And it's really fun because it's low pressure and because you're leaving. So they know it's low pressure, you know it's low pressure. And it's quite interesting because I've gone to New York a couple of times, 3 times in the last few months, and have met up with guys in New York there. One of them was not from Hinge, but the men in New York and Americans in general are what we were just talking about. They're so much more direct. They will plan the date. They will text you straight away and be like, okay, meet me at this place at 7:00. Then we're going to go to this place. I've made reservations and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Blah,
I would
blah, blah.
love that.
Yeah. Oh, and they pay for it all, which is so nice. It's like, so it's really fun. It's low pressure, no expectations. But you get to like meet someone who's doing something interesting, and you get to be wined and dined, and, you don't have to spend the evening on your own, which is always great too. So yeah, I really like anyone who's traveling solo. Obviously, like take your precautions of be safe. I always send pictures of like the profile to any friend that's nearby or anyone back like in the UK or something. Be like, if I disappear, here's what his profile looks like. Here's his, I don't usually exchange numbers, but here's like his information, blah, blah, blah. Here's where we're meeting. But besides that, it's like really fun to do.
But are you not scared that the whole of your history will repeat again and you'll meet somebody again and it'll be a whirlwind and they'll be in New York and you'll be in London and it will all start over again? Are you not scared?
Yeah, a little bit. Because the New York men are like so charming. So they're and like charming, wealthy, successful.
I'm picturing my perfect man right now.
Yeah, it's
in America.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, a little bit, and like there's been a couple times where I was like, oh my god, if you were in London, like I would for sure want to date you.
Wow.
But then they are also very quick to cut things off and just like never speak to you again, and like make it very clear that this is what it is, and like I'm moving on to the next thing. So I'm definitely I would be open to meeting somebody in a different city, but I can't see that really happening. So I don't know.
Well, this is what we call hookup culture then. So are you an advocate for it?
I think it's whatever works for the people. So for me, it has a time and place for me, but when I'm in London, that's not for me because when I'm in London, I'm in like find a relationship mode. So I don't really ever engage in that. But when I'm just like having fun abroad, then without saying too much, the gates are open. The gates are open. Oh my God.
Said too much.
I just said way too much. That's going to be a clip that will follow me around the internet for the rest of my life. I'm open-minded.
Really shall like yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did some abroad. I did all sorts. I opened the gate. No.
Yeah, no. No. But I think it's just whatever works for anyone.
Yeah.
I think as long as you don't feel, because not every boy or girl can feel good after a one night stand or a summer fling. And if you're one of those people, then don't continue to keep doing it if you feel bad afterwards. But for a lot of us, it feels great afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stories, nothing better. I've had some great times with summer flings in Greece, all from England though.
I've had, I met someone in Ibiza that did turn into a boyfriend, albeit he was horrible in the end. But yeah, I think it's nice to enjoy the time with someone. By the time this episode airs, I will have been in Bali with 100 strangers. So right now, as I'm speaking, very excited to see what that could bring, because obviously there's a chance that within 100 strangers, there could be someone perfect for me. That's not why I'm going. But there could be amongst the friendships that I'm very excited about, which actually seems to be something that's coming up a lot in this episode. And I think that's because all three of us can confidently say that we are happy single. And I think it's the friendships that hold that value and are so, so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also we're hustling and getting our own validation from our work and, as you said, friendships and other things and hobbies and stuff. And I think that was, for me, to get to a point where I was happy single, I just really had to like dive into my own life and do my own thing and build up really strong friendships. I love doing the gym. Like, I have a really strong gym routine that's like really fun for me. That's a hobby for me. And work, I'm getting so much fulfillment from work, and I'm happy to like work well into the evenings when I don't have anything to do. And it's hard. It can be hard though to get to that point where you're happy, and it's not like for me, it's not a constant state too. Like, it varies. It depends on what's going on in my life. But right now, I'm so happy to be single. Also, we're supposedly getting into summer, which is like the best time to be single.
Yeah,
so.
I think you can tell when you delete the apps, you're just done a bit like, I'm just ready, just let me be single for a little bit. I'm deleting the apps, I don't even want to speak to them.
You didn't understand why I deleted the apps, but now you're in that mode as well.
But mine isn't because I'm exhausted from the dating apps. Mine's like, I feel like I'm not in the right headspace at the minute. It's not that I'm not enjoying dating, I just think I'm in a bit of a weird headspace to be dating someone, so I don't want to inflict that on anyone else.
Well, that's good and that's healthy. But you're right, it does ebb and flow. Because the other day, I was carrying like 10 really heavy bags. I got some bad news and then really good news. And I was having a roller coaster day, and I was like, you know what? When will it be my turn to just be able to unload this to a partner at home instead of going, I could have called a friend, but I just wanted to go to my home that night, have dinner in my house. When is it going to be my turn for a guy to help me with the bags? Do you know what I mean? I have friends that have never had to just do so much themselves. They've got boyfriends that are sorting their visa out for their travel and just all of those things. It's just nice to have someone to alleviate from you,
Yeah, well, it's
the partnership.
Exactly, that's it, a partnership, and sharing a lot of just life responsibilities that when you're doing it on your own can feel just very tiring. You're like, I'm doing all the laundry myself. I'm handling the bills myself. I'm making my own travels and having to carry my own suitcases, like you said. And sometimes it's just nice to have somebody else to help with that, or on Sunday evenings. Like, I'm fine with doing my own thing Sunday evenings. I like to actually just chill. But also, occasionally, I'm like, it would be nice to have a cuddle with somebody while I'm watching this film. And
exactly.
Someone to chill with. And also, I find as you get older and your friends get into relationships and they're more serious, and also just as you grow up, you don't spend as much time with your friends as you once did. That's when you start to think, oh, now that's one other friend that I can't talk to as much as I used to. And that's another friend. And that's another friend. And you just start to feel a little bit isolated and just wish you had your person that was just for you, that you could speak to. And I think it's also great when you get older, because I feel like your friendships are more meaningful.
Yeah.
But it can also feel more lonely because they're going off.
Yeah, it's a weird catch-22 almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we always have a finale question on the podcast, and I think you're relatively positive anyway, actually. But obviously you have been through a divorce very young, and you could have literally been like, oh my God, hate men, hate this, hate London, I'm here on my own. You could have made a really bad situation of it, but you flipped it and you made it a completely different thing for you, as we mentioned earlier. So how do you keep a positive mindset when dating now? Like, obviously, without always thinking, oh, is there any point in getting married again? Because it would send in doom. Like, how do you stay positive?
So I just keep my life moving, basically. I do a lot of planning for my life so I can see that there's really, really amazing things that can happen no matter if I meet someone in the short term or not, or in the longer term. I think the interesting thing about being divorced is I was in a marriage, and I was like, I wasn't thinking this because I was unhappy or anything, or I wanted to get out of it, but I was kind of just watching my other friends still dating and thinking, I'll never do that again. That's so crazy. And like, I kind of have a second chance to just do my own thing and live my life for just myself. And I also, part of what I do too is I just think of all these like amazing experiences that I have had because I'm on my own. And part of it is putting myself into situations where I get to do very cool things. And part of it is just that because I didn't have a partner we were doing certain things and this and that, it just showed up for me. So I kind of do like a combination of making sure I'm planning for my future and like looking optimistic at that, keeping my life really full, and remembering that like this is all this amazing stuff that's happened because I'm on my own and I've been able to welcome all of this into my life without having a partner. So I think that covers it.
And I guess without having have ever met that person, you may not have ended up living here and having the career you had. So one door always leads to the next, and that's quite a fascinating idea about life, I think.
And if you was to ever would you get married again?
Because I don't want children, I don't really see the need.
Okay.
I would love to, I do want to have somebody to commit to for the long term and for forever, but I don't really feel the need to be tied up in all the paperwork. And I think we're going to have our own little empires and we'll come together for some things, but I think I just don't really see the need to tie up, but never say never, I guess.
You keep that fuck you fund for a go in Australia then. You might not need it. Positive mindset, how do you stay positive? You're generally positive about it anyway though, aren't you?
I think my positivity comes from me only just starting dating last year.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, woo! And also I've lost a lot of weight. So also losing a lot of weight makes me feel like I've got a whole new lease on life.
And your confidence.
So my confidence has got up, yeah. So it's kind of easy for me to stay positive right now. The apps are deleted, so you never know in 6 months I'll be fuming, but right now. What about you?
I agree with Jess wholeheartedly. I feel that way. And also I think I take ease as well. Is that the right word? Like relief from knowing that there's so many great women that are all feeling the same right now. I'm sure there's amazing men also feeling the same, but us three here right now.
Yeah, where are they?
Where are they? We're on Instagram. And yeah, we're all sat here, you know, I have family, friends, just amazing women all around me, and they're also single and in that position of really finding it hard to find a great partner to match them. And I do, if it's fair to say, take a bit of relief in that, you know, it's not just you feeling that way.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much, Jess, for joining us. You've given some amazing top tips.
Oh my God, so many tips.
Yeah, and it was just a fascinating story, so thank you for sharing. Where can people follow you?
So my business is called Love and London, and we're across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but also I post about being an entrepreneur, sometimes about dating, things like that on Jess Dante on Instagram and TikTok.
Thank you. Send everyone there. And of course, you can follow us on Daisie Dates Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, and listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, Google, and watch on YouTube.